All right, welcome to the Tuesday show. I'm Ultra David.
And I am jchensor.
All right, fantastic. So we'll talk about final round 19, results, and also etc. There's a lot of etc. to get to.
Right.
We'll talk about the fact that there was no Alex trailer, despite no indications that there would be Alex trailers.
I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about, let's see, what do we got here? We got our impressions of SF5 after the first premiere event.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Just kind of want to talk about that.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about game news and community news and upcoming stuff like KI Season 3 next week and so forth. Mm-hmm. Alrighty.
So,
final round 19. Well, we were there this past weekend.
And it destroyed my sleep schedule.
Same here. Still feeling kind of weird.
I'm like for some reason getting off the freeway today, there was actually a decent amount of traffic, like trying to get off the freeway. I was on the off ramp for like 10 minutes. I think I fell asleep on there like maybe 2 or 3 times while sitting on the off ramp. That's
not good.
No, it wasn't.
Probably not a good thing to admit, to be honest. Apparently there's a huge audio desync.
There's a huge audio desync.
Yeah, also
wow, look at that.
XSplit looks super strange.
Oh, XSplit is going weird on me. Why?
Audio only. Whoever's doing that, you're a genius.
Interesting.
I'm not adding anything to this right now by sitting here in video. I can tell you that.
That's so weird. What is going on here? Oh, wait. It looks like it's synced now.
Is it good? Okay, yeah.
Wait, is it... Okay. People online, let us know if it's synced. Because it looks like it might be kind of... It's like weirdly like half a second lag right now, and it's freaking me out. But
it is weird.
Yeah. Okay.
Now it's fine. Fantastic. All right. Well, that was the requisite message.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, knock on wood, and
right,
not only that, but also my computer must be sleepy too. So.
Yeah. We really didn't get that much sleep, and then obviously tonight we're doing the show, and then we're leaving for NorCal Regionals. The previous weekend, I was also on a plane, and then the weekend before that, I was also on a plane. And April's going to be quite a mess as well. So, it's a busy time. Yes. It's a little strange. Anyway, final round. I guess before we get into the results and the issues, general thoughts?
Look, it's hard to talk about general thoughts without talking about the issues. I
suppose
guess.
You're right. Yeah.
But I mean, just from gameplay wise, look, I didn't see anything but Street Fighter the whole time I was there.
Yeah.
We were pretty much trapped in the Street Fighter room the entire time. Normally on Sunday we get a break until finals, and then we can wander around and look at a bunch of stuff and watch a bunch of other games. But
play in the arcade area.
But Street Fighter 5 took all of Sunday. So literally, it was like all. So
only SF5.
Dude, like I know a bunch of Marvel stuff happened, Mortal Kombat stuff happened, KIs of anime games, all the stuff. I saw none of that. I didn't even see Markman there. Like I never saw Markman at the event. Like he was just in the other room. We were in a different room, and I just never saw him.
I saw Spooky for 1 second. We both said, "Hey, what's up?" as we were passing each other.
Yeah.
A ton of friends who I didn't even see, who I know were there, and didn't have time. So it was an unusually busy weekend for us, definitely part of that was because there were 1,000 people playing Street Fighter 5, right? So typically tournaments will start at like 10 or even noon,
right?
And we started at 8 a.m.
on Saturday.
Saturday, which is something we've only ever done for Evo, and then as you said on Sunday, typically that's like. Maybe we'll commentate another game or like whatever. We'll hang out. But no, we had no time for anything. So.
Yeah, we had to be up at 10, do semifinals all the way until 7, and then top 8 at 7.
Yeah.
I mean, it pretty much wasn't the standard like, here's top 8 for Street Fighter. It was literally, let's just go until we're done with the tournament. And it ran all of Sunday, which was a problem in and of itself, but in any case.
Yeah, I talked with one of my friends there for like 20 seconds. And pointed out that like 90% of our interaction is not in person at tournaments, even though we both go to like every tournament. 'Cause I'm always busy.
Right.
Talk on like DMs and stuff. That's it.
Oh man.
So our perspective was unusual. I know. I really couldn't even tell you like how the rest of the event went.
We just
Everything I've heard is all hearsay.
Yeah, secondhand kind of stuff. Now, from our perspective, obviously, Street Fighter V ran really. I mean, I wouldn't say it ran well because pools were behind for a while, but the matches themselves were super cool. As we said, we'll get into that in a little bit. But let's get into a little bit of the issues. So we've kind of skirted around this, but let's talk about what the issues were. Sure. So obviously, the 1,024 players, I think, really kind of threw the final round staff for a loop, because a lot of things it kind of propagated itself into a bunch of different problems, right?
Okay.
So like number one, they took on-site registration, and there's a reason why Evo, when it's gotten bigger, they basically said we're done with on-site registration because this is just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And what happened was they had like 800 and some players, and then they got like 100 and some on-site registration. So they decided to redo the entire brackets, and they didn't get done until about 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. Saturday morning, like literally before the tournament.
Like 4 hours before people would be playing.
Mm-hmm. And so if you weren't up at that time and you didn't see that you got moved into one of the 8 a.m. pools, a lot of people got DQ'd. They also didn't match brackets with other games. Yeah. So in other words, if they put you in a certain bracket on one game, it was irrespective of what was happening in another game. So a lot of people ended up being scheduled to play at the same time. They could only play one game, and then they got DQ'd from the other one. I saw someone say that they literally flew like 4,000 miles to play 2 games and get DQ'd from like the other ones, And it just caused this kind of snowball effect, which I feel like a lot of the other tournaments also ran a little late. So, I mean, I heard a lot of stories about the Killer Instinct tournament.
Yeah, in particular.
Yeah, that one seemed to go particularly bad. The consoles weren't updated properly. It went from 3 out of 5 to 2 out of 3 to 3 out of 5, like, randomly during the tournament. It ran super late. Now, last year, the anime games, like Guilty Gear and stuff like that, they got really angry because they were shoved off to side rooms, and I remember they were finishing super late at night. I actually saw that this year. They were like, we had a great time. Like, everything started a little late, but we ran on time and whatever, all this stuff, and it was largely due to a lot of the guys who were running that particular section, But, that was definitely outside the norm from what I could hear from a lot of people. And in fact, there's been a lot of, again, hearsay from people like, I went to final round, I didn't enjoy it at all, I'm never going back, roar, kind of thing. Pitchforks and torches and stuff. So, yeah, a lot of that happened, and then all of that was kind of exacerbated by the fact that fellow TO, Mr. Alex Jabali, on Sunday, while the tournament was still going, decided to put up a Facebook post basically saying, like, they need to get their act together. It was run really poorly.
He had already left.
Yeah, he had already left. Just all these problems. And so now this issue of final round and how it was ran and everything like that is kind of in the forefront. Even though, and this is not an excuse for them, even though they've kind of had problems like every year, right? So now there's been a lot of... Dude, it even got on... What website was it? Was it Gama Sutra or something?
Destructoid had an article.
Destructoid, yeah, about Jabali calling out Shin Blanca about final round. Yeah, so I was just like, really? If this didn't happen, you wouldn't have written jack, about us.
Yeah, that's always how it's been.
Oh, man.
There were a lot of problems, definitely. Yeah. And you're right that it's not the first year. We had this same show last year. The results will be different, but the rest of the show was the same, where we talked about the issues. And I don't remember if we had a show about it the previous year, but there were issues then. I mean, like, whether it's these particular ones or like floating or whatever it is, there are always things that really makes me sad. You know, I really feel bad for the people who did travel a long ways and who didn't get to play, or whose playing experience was not good, or who came for the first time and had a sort of disorganized experience that wasn't as nice as it could be. And some of those people may not like be ready to come back anytime soon. I don't know, but like maybe, you know, we certainly have heard about it.
Right.
That some people said that they wouldn't come back. All those things really suck. You know, I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. I really like all the people involved.
Yeah.
You know, we always have a good time hanging out to the extent that we have time, and you know, just sort of catching up, and it's always cool. Some of those people I've known since I lived in DC, you know, decade ago. So anyway, I feel bad for everybody who had issues. I feel bad for the event staff who are volunteers and not paid, and that is at this point that's not just not nice, but it's a liability. I heard tell of a couple of volunteers who just left because they just like didn't want to bother with it. Who, you know, saying that there were so many issues that they just were like, all right, enough, I'm out of here. You know, that's all bad news. It's all really bad news. So.
Yeah, I mean, there was also issues of venue size, and
that's a big one.
Yeah, because basically a lot of people kept getting bumped and stuff. In fact, we had one story where a KI player was trying to combo break with certain buttons, got bumped, and his hand literally moved like slightly, and he combo broke with the wrong buttons and lost.
Yeah.
Because he locked himself out.
Yeah. And then there was somebody who like leaned back in his chair when something was going badly, and somebody behind him like got up and was like, bam, and they knocked heads.
Yeah.
And the first guy paused because like, what? I just got hit in the head.
Right.
Other guy took the round. Dang, that is tough.
Wow. Okay. I heard about the head banging, but he just took the round. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Again, I wasn't there for any of that. I was in a corner, but that's what people said.
Okay.
Hopefully, I'm not spreading misinformation. I really couldn't tell you.
Right. Now, okay, even at the end of the event, Larry already addressed that the venue was too small. Like, in his closing statements, he was like, I need to get a newer venue. I need to get a bigger venue now, right? Because the final round space is pretty decent size, but it's split into multiple rooms, you know, and it has the outdoor hallway area.
Yeah.
But, it's just not big enough to encompass what they have. But, I mean, to be honest with you, like, obviously... look, like all the guys working on the final round staff, like you said, we know a lot of them. They're very cool people. It's not like they're sitting here being malicious about everything. And in fact, some of the people who were volunteers have even spoken out that this year seemed particularly bad compared to other years. But at this point in time, like once you get 800 pre-registrations, you really got to start thinking about what to do to handle that. You know what I mean? Like, at some point in time, the rate at which people were signing up had to have exceeded last year by a significant amount. Yeah. And at that point, it's time to try to take it. You know, you have to try to head that off at the past.
Well, I mean, they couldn't switch venues, presumably. I mean, I don't know the situation, but typically what happens is that TOs strike a contract with a venue like almost immediately after the tournament ends the previous year. And final round was announced very early. It is every year. It's announced very early. And they already had the venue. So, I mean, you can't do anything about that. For next year, I assume that they'll fix it. But yeah, just the venue size itself, like I understand not expecting to have 1,000-person tournament and you know, at the time, a year ago, getting a deal with the same hotel. That makes sense to me.
Right.
But so, you know, they definitely had some issues with that. But yeah, maybe, you know, figuring out what your capacity is and trying to cap it at a little bit lower rate.
Right, exactly.
I don't know. Obviously, they want as many people to play as possible, you know, but I don't know, man. It's a tough answer there. I don't think that I could be too critical about the size, just considering that I'm sure they got the venue way in advance.
I mean, it's more of, like I said, I wasn't saying like when they saw the size that it's time to it's really time to think about, okay, you know what, don't do on-site registration, or if you do on-site registration, put them in their own pools so that we can generate the other pools ahead of time. Just give as much. I mean, that's one of the benefits of on-site registration, is that honestly it's great for the TOs because they get a good idea of what to expect, right? I mean, that's one of the main reasons why you do on-site registration. So, I mean, you
Pre-reg.
do mostly pre-reg, online and such. So, it's unfortunate that it doesn't feel like that they had thought about it enough, because like I said, the pools didn't come out until literally like 3 a.m. the night before, 5 hours before the tournament start. Half the people are asleep already.
Oh, yeah.
So, it is unfortunate, look, Final Round's been around for forever, for 19 years now. And, they've had a lot of issues in the past few years, and it feels like it really exacerbated this year. I'm still not sure, that it was the right thing for Jabali to come out so publicly, and criticize it like this. But, he has said that he's tried talking to them behind doors before, and it doesn't seem to have made an impact or anything. So I don't know, but like as we said, some people are reporting on it. There is a really good article actually by Ann P4U on Shoryuken.com where she sums up a lot of the issues and talks about it in a very fair fashion. It's not attacking or like witch hunting or anything like that.
Yeah, she did interviews with people involved. So
right,
exactly.
exactly.
Shout out to that.
Yeah, so it's you can actually go to Shoryuken and see an article there called Behind the Hype, Final Round 19 Issues Raises Questions About TOs, about tournament organization. It's actually really, there was one paragraph from here that I really wanted to read, and I can't remember which one it was now.
Okay.
I mean, is there anything else that
Well, I can tell you that some of the people who I talked with who are not just volunteers, but people who are like on the staff, they were not happy with how things went, and they thought that they went sort of worse than usual without really being able to pinpoint where the sort of fault laid. I don't know, something like whatever the verb is there. Right. For example, with the space issue, I talked with one person who said that they had arranged the tables the same way that they always do, with plenty of space in between. Only to come in the next day and see that the tables were really close together. And not be sure how that happened. Right.
Was it hotel staff, or was it, or was it a decision by the TO?
Right, yeah, they just didn't know what had happened. So that kind of thing sucks. It's always seemed to me like FR has a lot of cooks in the kitchen without a clear hierarchy involved. Obviously Larry is the person who is at the very top, but as opposed to other tournaments that where they tightly control who enters which game, and they're all sort of paying attention to who's in which tournament and how each tournament is run. FR and some other events have person who runs the Mortal Kombat bracket, person who runs the Marvel bracket, and if one of them is not that great at what they're supposed to do, then it's kind of that's part of the problem. Right.
And they decided to go with Smash GG, which was brand new for a lot of them, kind of at the last second, according to the article on SRK. So that lots of little things like that contribute. For
sure. So I don't know, a lot of problems with it. I'm really sorry for everybody who went and didn't have a good time because of that. That definitely sucks.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you were watching this and you were like, well, maybe I don't want to go to events anymore, or if you're watching and Final Round was your first event, because all of us are always like, you should go to events, and I mean, understand that it is a different experience at a lot of different events. Yeah. And Combo Breaker's coming up, which everybody always has a great time at. CEO is coming up, which a lot of people have a great time at. And again, I mean, it's tough, right? Because I know Jabali. It's tough. It's tough for Jabali because, a lot of people can misinterpret his words very easily.
Look, he didn't phrase it well. Yeah, he didn't phrase it maybe politically is the better term. Maybe not even that. Maybe he didn't phrase it nicely. Okay, because I feel like part of what happened is that he is playing politics, but the politics are like, come to my event,
Yeah.
rather than like trying to smooth things over.
Right. I mean,
so that was not done as well as it could have been, but clearly there actually are problems.
Right. Like, it's interesting because, I mean, just as an analogy, I was talking to Mike Z one time. He came online and really criticized, I think it was either Street Fighter 5 or Street Fighter 4 or something like that. And I basically talked to him. I was like, it's kind of tough being in your position to criticize this thing because you make a game as well. So it always sounds like you have ulterior motive kind of thing. And he's like, no, you're right. I have to be careful the way I state things because it's easily interpreted that way. That's what I feel like Jabali kind of left off.
Agreed.
You know, a lot of people in the chat, a lot of people have said they're really glad Jabali brought it up and everything, but there's definitely probably a little bit more tactful way to do it than he did.
Look, we would be talking about it regardless. Mm-hmm. We talked about it last year, for example, without that, and I don't have any reason to think that sort of like Ann's article wouldn't have happened, right? So I don't know how helpful that really is for him to have phrased it that way. I think that a lot of this coverage would have happened anyway, and that like we all saw that there are issues, like it's obvious. So
especially because now Capcom Premiere is such a bigger thing, and you know the fighting game scenes are getting bigger now. I mean, we had freaking Xavier Woods mentioned Final Round on TV once, right?
It's true.
A WWE show.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm not sure what to say, I suppose. I want people to not think poorly of Final Round because I like the people involved, and I know it's a huge event and a great meeting place for a lot of people. It's considered one of the biggest tournaments in the world, and people flew there from all over the world, and I would hate to see a situation where they lose their status as being like a big meeting place of people from all over the world. That would just really be unfortunate.
Right. I mean, to put it in perspective, they had 1,024 for Street Fighter 5. Last I heard, and again, hearsay, I heard NCR has like 300 or 400 Street Fighter 5 entrants.
Today on, what is it, Best of 3? Or Live on 3? I always
Best
get
of 3.
Yeah, Best of 3. Choi said that they had like 500 or 600 people, and it like could be 700 or something.
In
like that.
Street Fighter 5 or
Street
total?
Fighter 5.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay, cool.
So,
cool.
It's going to be a big event too, you know.
Right.
It's going to be a big event. And Final Round is at an unfortunate position where they're the first premiere, and so it was hard to know that there were going to be 1,000 people. But still, as we mentioned, they probably could have handled that situation a little bit better than they did.
Right. Yeah, and then there was also another complaint as well that a lot of people were talking about, was that because Street Fighter V had 1,024 people, they ran it all on Saturday. I don't know if they just didn't have enough setups. Again, that could be a venue size, maybe not ready for it. But what happened was they ran pools from 8 a.m. to midnight, scheduled. It literally ran from 8 a.m. to like 2 a.m., right? On pools day. But the problem with that was then, as we mentioned, on Sunday, we did semis all the way through top 8 until it was over. And it was pretty much 10 a.m. start all the way till grand finals ended, right? The biggest problem with that was that Capcom Pro Tour, Capcom Fighters stream, cannibalized the fighting game community stream.
Yeah. Basically,
everyone watched that because it lasted all of Sunday, and then all the other streams, like spooky streams like Marvel and KI and MK and Smash and all, like, less people watch those streams.
Yeah.
They got less viewership because normally on Sunday, what's great about Sundays, it's a celebration of all the games.
I'm with you.
You watch each one of them one by one. You can't watch another stream, you know, and so you really get to appreciate these games. And that's like one of my favorite things. Like every Evo, like if I don't commentate until like Street Fighter 4 at the end, I'll still get up in the morning when the tournament starts because I just want to watch everything.
I do the same, dude. Yeah.
So
absolutely. I was really looking forward to watching MKX because it was the first like super big tournament since the Combat Pack 2 had come out. And I really was looking forward to seeing how that went. And I always want to watch Tekken at Final Round because that's like the big thing.
Dude, and some of the Korean players made it out for that, right?
I know. So I was really looking forward to that stuff. And it just didn't work out like that. So those things are things that the rest of the tournaments in the year are going to have to learn from. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. Maybe it's the case that Street Fighter V has to be a 3-day event now. Maybe it can't be 2. Like, maybe you can't do 1,000 people in one day. Like, maybe that's not practical. So, I don't know. But, those are things that other tournaments are going to have to learn from. So that is unfortunate for Final Round that they were in that position.
Right.
But again, considering pre-registration numbers, like, they probably could have been planning around this stuff.
Look, what I'll say is this. This has all come out here. I know people were saying that Larry was just on the On Blast show, like, just completely just, like, trying to, like... I heard he was going in on Jabali and such. I hope that's not the only thing that comes out of this. Honestly, next year is Final Round 20. So 20th anniversary of Final Round. What better time to really step up the game than the 20th year? I really do hope that some of this is taken to heart and that they look into it and really try to do a lot of stuff for Final Round 20. And at the same time, look, Jabali's painted a target on his back. Now everyone walking into CEO is going to be like, this had better be like the most flawlessly run event. So, it's going to be interesting to see.
It's going to be run well.
Yeah,
I can pretty much guarantee that. That's part of the position that he has. Like, that's part of why I'm sure he felt like he could make those criticisms, because frankly speaking, CEO is the best tournament outside of EVO. Has been for a few years now.
Right.
It's super well run. It has an awesome location. The games are always good. There's an art exhibit. Like, it just has everything there. So it's gonna be a well run.
Right. Yeah. The one thing about it is, honestly, so we're at a point right now. Some people are saying, like, joking in the chat, esports is killing FGC or whatever like that. Look, we're growing at a really fast rate. The days of having a bunch of volunteer staff is not going to cut it anymore.
Yeah,
right?
Agreed.
So one of the reasons why Jabali is successful is because he's hired a lot of people who have good success running events to do a lot of stuff.
True.
Right? So, Jabali has a bunch of people that he can rely on and make sure they do a good job with a lot of these things, right? I think that's just really what it comes down to now. It's like, I just don't feel like that... there's a lot of events in the FGC that can still be grassroots. You can still have volunteers all over the place, right? But for stuff that's going to be Capcom Premier events, I don't know if that's going to cut it anymore.
I don't think that it can be grassroots while paying people. I feel like that's not a good dichotomy there. I want people to get paid for volunteering. You're spending an entire weekend slaving around. It's terrible.
Right.
It's not fun. It's like not a fun experience, really. It can be rewarding, but it's not like you're having a blast. Like, you're stressed and you got to yell a lot. It's, there's a lot of work involved.
Right.
So I want those people to get something, Even at grassroots events, I don't think that those two are incompatible.
Right, right.
So. And I don't feel like CEO or like Combo Breaker and stuff, I don't feel like they're not grassroots. Like, that's not MLG.
Oh, yeah.
Those are still very FGC events.
Right. But what I'm just saying is that if you're an event that's the size of Final Round, what you did running the tournament 5 years ago isn't going to work anymore.
I'm with you there.
The process has to change. You're right. It's not grassroots or whatever like that. But you really have to rethink how you do everything and really start to delegate and have different people manage different parts. You know what I mean? So it's not going to be the same thing anymore where it's just a bunch of people in a room going, okay, you take care of this, you take care of this. Like, it's literally like, I'm hiring you, you take care of make sure that you do the brackets. Hi, fill out the brackets.
Yeah.
Here's the online registration a month in advance. Do your best with the brackets.
Yeah.
Because I know they have like one guy who does all the brackets at Combo Breaker.
Yeah,
right?
Max.
Yeah. So
it's not just Combo Breaker, man. He hires himself out to different events.
Oh, does he?
He does.
Okay.
He's super valuable. To be honest, he's really important.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Part of why I'm sad for the Jabali thing is that I really feel like Final Round and other events could use his maybe not his expertise in particular, but like the group
His
of people
teams.
who he works with. And now I feel like that's pretty unlikely.
Right, exactly.
Pretty unlikely to happen. So
yeah.
that sucks.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I'm not sure if a lot of people know this. This is kind of more behind the scenes stuff, but I've always felt like there's a little bit of a divide in there.
Oh,
right?
there is.
You know, before Combo Breaker UFGT, it was always Keats and Jabali versus, you know, Larry and Big E.
It's true. Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So, but yeah, I mean, look, having a well-run tournament is not just good for your tournament, it's good for the entire scene altogether.
Yes, absolutely true.
So the people who did have a bad experience at final round, I do feel awful about that. You know, I'm sad that they had that kind of experience, especially because there were so many great matches and there's a lot of good stuff there. It takes a while because some people who have been going to final round for a long time, they kind of understand already that playing is not necessarily the main part of some of these fighting game tournaments. A lot of it is watching the events, getting hype, especially in the East Coast because they get hype really well, seeing friends and such.
That's true. Yeah.
But if you're not aware of that and you're going to this event for the first time and you think, this is my first event, I'm here to play games, and then you like get DQ'd from like 2 of your tournaments and then you go 0-2 in another tournament, you're just going to be like, why did I even come out here? Because you don't have a lot of friends already there and stuff. So yeah, I can definitely see it being, you know, a problem for a lot of people who are there, especially people who are brand new to the scene.
Gotta step it up. That's really what this comes down to.
Yeah.
Gotta step it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like an advisory thing anymore. It's like you want to continue being a major tournament, like you have to step it up because people will switch to some other event, and you won't get the same support that you did this time from Capcom and Namco or Bandai or whatever, and from whatever else, you know.
Dude, Harada was there.
Right. Yeah.
I saw him walking through the hall at one point in time.
He was there. Me too. I felt the same way. I was like, "What's this about?" But
dude.
you know, maybe if we had been able to watch the stream at all.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh. Dude, like I heard in MK, we'll get into this in the results, but the grand finals was Alien versus Alien, right?
We'll talk about that.
Okay,
yeah, it was.
Okay.
So, anything else to say on this topic right now?
No. I think we've pretty much said enough, so everyone gets the idea at this point.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yoink. Okay, I'm going back to this system here.
Sounds good.